The slap exploded through the street without warning, sharp and violent, snapping Elena's head to the side as the sound echoed between the buildings. For a split second, the entire block froze, cars rolling slowly, footsteps stopping mid-stride, conversations dying in people's throats. "Don't you ever talk back to me," Officer Daniel Crow shouted, his hands still raised, chest heaving as if he'd just won something. Elena staggered but didn't fall. Her cheek burned, her ears rang, and the taste of blood spread across her tongue. She pressed her palm lightly against her face, steadying herself, forcing her breath to slow. When she looked up, her eyes didn't carry fear. They carried focus. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Did he just? That was too far. Crow straightened his uniform, soaking in the attention. "She was being disrespectful," he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I gave her plenty of warning." Elena's voice was calm when she spoke. "I asked why you stopped me." Crow laughed, short and mocking. "You don't ask me questions. You answer them." Minutes earlier, she'd been walking to the bus stop, rehearsing points in her head for the meeting she couldn't afford to miss. She hadn't even noticed him until he stepped directly into her path. "ID," he'd said, irritation already sharp in his tone. "For what reason?" she'd asked politely. That single sentence had changed everything. Now, phones were coming out. Crow noticed them and felt a flicker of annoyance, but also confidence. He'd been here before. He always walked away untouched. "You think you're special?" he said, lowering his voice as he leaned closer. "You think rules bend for you?" "No," Elena replied. "I think rules exist for everyone." Something in the way she said it, measured, unflinching, made his jaw tighten. He was used to fear. He was used to apologies. This was neither. Crow stepped back and waved his hand dismissively. "Move along," he barked at the crowd. "Show's over." No one moved. Elena took 3 steps away, then stopped. Crow smirked. "That's right. Twuck." She reached into her bag slowly. The crowd leaned in. Crow's smile faded. "You recording me now?" he snapped, stepping forward. Elena pulled out her phone, glanced at the screen, then slipped it back inside her bag. "No," she said evenly. "I'm saving the time." Crow frowned. "Saving what?" She met his eyes. "The moment you decided to end your career." A nervous laugh passed through the crowd. Crow felt it, the shift, subtle but dangerous. "You should be careful," he warned. "You don't know who you're talking to." Elena nodded once. "That's the problem," she said quietly. "You think no one does." Crow scoffed, masking the unease crawling up his spine. "Get out of here." She turned and walked away, her steps unhurried, her back straight. Behind her, whispers swelled. "That was wrong. I got it on video." He went too far. Crow returned to his cruiser, adrenaline still buzzing through his veins. He told himself it was nothing. Another nobody. Another day. On the bus, Elena sat by the window, watching the city slide past. Her reflection stared back at her, the red mark on her cheek already darkening. Her phone buzzed. "Are you okay?" She typed back slowly. "I will be." That night, Crow sprawled on his couch, boots kicked off, beer untouched on the table. His phone buzzed again and again. Finally, he answered. "Daniel," his partner said, voice tight. "Have you checked the internet?" Crow frowned. "Why?" "Because you're all over it." He hung up and opened his phone. The video loaded, shaky at first, then horrifyingly clear. His voice. His face. The slap, louder than he remembered. His stomach dropped. Comments flooded the screen. "Fire him. Abuse of power. Badge number 6142. Same guy who shoved my father." Crow sat up straight. "That's a lie," he muttered. Then another comment appeared. "Filed a complaint in 2021. They ignored it." His phone rang. "They opened a shared file," his partner said. "It's not just her anymore." Crow's mouth went dry. He stared at the screen as names, dates, and clips stacked together like evidence waiting for a verdict. Across town, Elena sat at her kitchen table, laptop open to the same video, paused at the exact moment his hand connected with her face. Her sister hovered nearby. You don't have to keep watching that, she said softly. I do, Elena replied. Details matter. You could have fought back. Elena closed the laptop. That would have ended this fast, she said. I need it to end properly. By morning, the story was everywhere. By afternoon, the police department issued a statement announcing an internal review. Crow stormed into the precinct, face flushed. This is ridiculous, he snapped. One clip and suddenly I'm the villain? The captain didn't look up. Sit down, Daniel. I didn't do anything wrong. Sit down. Crow dropped into the chair, leg bouncing. She provoked me. The captain finally met his eyes. There have been complaints before. Crow froze. What complaints? Enough, the captain said, sliding a form across the desk. Badge. Gun. Crow stood abruptly. You can't do this. Now. Metal clinked as he unclipped his belt. The badge hit the desk with a weight that made his chest tighten. Elena walked into a modest office downtown, greeted by a woman with steady eyes. If you proceed, the woman said, sliding a document toward her, your name becomes public. Elena hesitated. That means harassment, the woman continued. Threats. People questioning your past. And if I don't? Elena asked. The woman didn't hesitate. He keeps his job. Elena picked up the pen. Across the city, Crow sat alone in his car outside the precinct, staring at the building he'd once ruled. His phone buzzed. A message from his brother. What did you do? Crow didn't answer. For the first time, the uniform wasn't protecting him, and the silence felt heavier than any siren. The days that followed moved faster than Crow could control. Internal affairs didn't circle slowly the way he expected. They came straight at him. In a windowless office, two investigators sat across from him, folders stacked neatly on the table. Let's start simple, one of them said. How many civilian complaints have been filed against you? Crow leaned back, arms crossed. I don't keep count. The investigator slid a folder forward. We do. Crow flipped it open. His confidence faltered. Dates, names, locations, incidents he'd dismissed, forgotten, laughed about. These were cleared, he said quickly. Dismissed, the investigator corrected. Not cleared. Crow's jaw tightened. Because there was no evidence. The second investigator tapped the table. There is now. Across town, Elena's name was spreading just as fast as Crow's was falling. She felt it the moment she stepped outside. Strangers stared too long. Phones lifted and lowered when she looked their way. At the advocacy office, the lawyer spoke carefully. People will try to make this about you instead of him. Elena nodded. I know. They'll say you wanted attention. I didn't, Elena replied. I wanted accountability. The lawyer studied her. That distinction matters. Not to everyone, but to the truth. The first hearing drew a crowd. Cameras lined the sidewalk. Crow arrived in a borrowed suit, shoulders stiff, eyes forward. He ignored the shouted questions. Officer Crow, did you strike her? Have you abused civilians before? Inside, Elena sat quietly, hands folded in her lap. She felt Crow's presence before she saw him. When he took his seat across the room, she didn't look away. When asked to speak, she stood. I was walking to the bus stop, she began. I was stopped without explanation. I asked a question. I was slapped. Her voice didn't shake. Crow clenched his fists. When it was his turn, he stood quickly. She was provoking me, he said. She challenged my authority. The investigator looked up. How? She questioned my order. Elena looked at him then. Not with anger. With something colder. Understanding. The investigator nodded slowly. Questioning is not a threat, Officer Crow. Crow felt heat crawl up his neck. Days later, another video surfaced. Then another. Different angles. Different days. Same tone. Same hands. Crow's wife watched one of them in silence. How long? She asked finally. Crow snapped. You're turning against me too? She shook her head. I'm realizing I never knew you. That night, she packed a bag. The next hearing came faster than expected. Crow tried one last move. He submitted screenshots, messages taken out of context, anything to shift doubt. The room murmured as the screen lit up. Then the investigator spoke. These timestamps were altered. Crow froze. You submitted falsified material, the investigator continued. That alone is grounds for termination. The murmurs turned sharp. Elena felt a tightness in her chest loosen. Not relief, clarity. Crow sat back slowly. For the first time, he had no response. The decision came on a Friday afternoon. Elena received the call at her desk. He's dismissed, the lawyer said. Effective immediately. Pension revoked. Charges pending. Elena closed her eyes and exhaled. Her hands trembled, not with joy, but with release. Crow received the letter alone. He read it twice, then a third time, as if repetition might soften the words. Termination. He laughed once, hollow and bitter. One slap, he muttered. That's all it took. Weeks passed. The city moved on. Elena returned to her routines. Commutes. Quiet evenings. The bruise faded, but something stronger remained. People treated her differently now, not with pity, but with respect. She didn't correct them. She didn't explain. One afternoon, she stood at the same bus stop. A uniformed officer walked past. Her body tensed instinctively. The officer nodded politely. Have a good day. She nodded back. Across town, Crow stood in line at an employment office, eyes fixed on the floor. Ahead of him, a woman argued softly with a clerk. I just need someone to listen, the woman said. Crow felt irritation rise, old reflex. Then he caught his reflection in the glass. Tired. Ordinary. Unnoticed. He said nothing. Elena boarded her bus as it arrived, standing where she once had. Someone bumped into her. I'm sorry, the woman said quickly. Elena smiled faintly. It's okay. The bus pulled away. Power hadn't disappeared. It had simply changed hands, not with violence, not with noise, but with truth. And silence, once mistaken for weakness, had spoken louder than any slap ever could.